It's with great honor to have one of the most recognized people in this community who changes lives receive our Guest of Honor award. And Dean, I know we've only been hanging out a little bit. You're gonna get sick of me until we get this done. But we're gonna get the FDA and we're gonna get Medicare and Medicaid to change this. So me and my buddies and our veterans that are coming home to give us our freedom can have the quality of life that they deserve. Without further ado, Dean Kamen.
Now the tallest guy in the group. And Robin, you're the second tallest. I'm 5'6". The other ugly truth, you said I'm going to get sick of you. I'm already sick of you. So, let's be brutally honest here. More than almost 15 years ago, I started working on what we call the iBot. And if you call my iBot a wheelchair once more, I'm going to pull a fuse. Only the people that don't get it in Washington call it a wheelchair. So, by way of a little background, I've been very lucky in my life. I started my business in high school. I have an older brother who was in med school, an MD, PhD. A doctor, you can imagine how my mother felt about that. and so I had no interest in competing with him. I figured I'd just support him. And he'd come home from school on weekends and he was doing easy stuff like trying to cure babies with leukemia. He was a pediatric hematologist. But he needed equipment. And so I get down in the basement and build him equipment. And over the years, instead of going to college, I built him more equipment. And I ended up having a nice little business, just trying to keep him happy. Of course, it never paid any money because I was doing it for my brother. But there came a time when some of the giant medical products companies and pharmaceutical companies wanted some of these technologies, and I would license it to them. And as I said, I was very lucky. And probably for 20 years after that, until about 10 or 15 years ago, I'd spend most of my time making stuff for the big guys that could be applied to a lot of patients. And frankly, they could make a profit, because that's not a four-letter word. And I would collect royalties so that I could go on and work on some other project that mattered to me, some of which would have a business outcome, some might not. We spent lots and lots of money making little machines the size of this podium to supply clean water to people around the world. Very few people have helped me on that one. Not big companies. They figured out a long time ago people that have no water, people that have no electricity, or the people that have no money. But there's a few billion of those people, and it just seemed to me we could help. And 50% of all human disease is waterborne pathogens, so make those machines would be a good idea. So I spent a lot of time doing that, for which most people think I'm nuts. About 15 years ago, I had another one of those internally generated DECA projects. People at DECA affectionately refer to as Dean's crazy ideas. None of my clients would fund it. It all came about because I was going into a shopping mall one night on my way home from work, my day job, making stuff for the big guys. And as I was going into the mall for dinner, the food court, an ice cream cone, and a supply of new stuff at Radio Shack, I noticed a guy, a young, healthy guy. This is not a doddering 90-year-old person that somehow got away from the home. This was a rugged guy, like a really rugged guy. Like maybe he was a vet from Vietnam and lost his legs, but he was a pretty rugged-looking guy. It was starting to rain. It was really messy. It was a brand-new modern shopping mall. He couldn't get up the curb to get in. I noticed that. Modern mall, this America, this guy couldn't get in. I go over to help him. A couple of guys go help him. He's up. A few minutes later, I'm in the mall trying to buy something at Radio Shack, and I noticed him go by, he can't interact with me and stuff. And as I'm leaving the mall with my stop at the food court, I notice he's behind me at the food court. And I buy an ice cream cone, but we all know the counter height. If you were down in a chair, you would be looking at your friends here. He couldn't do the transaction. And I left that night thinking, this is perverse.